This is Lesson 9, Understanding Multiplication of Integers. Exercise 1, the integer game revisited. We aren't doing this in groups, but we are doing this as a class. So for part A, 4 cards that I am picking are 4, -1, -5, and 8. So now we have 8. Well, actually, I'm going to leave these cards the way they are. So we have 4, -1, 8, and we have -5. And we're going to add 2 more -5s here. So now it says, write a product that describes the 3 matching cards. Well, product means to multiply, so 3 times -5. It says, write an expression that represents how each of the starred cards changes your score. Well, it would change our score by adding -5 each time. So here it says, write an equation that relates these 2 expressions. Well, to relate these, we would have 3 times -5. And multiplying is repeated addition, so we could add the -5 plus -5 plus -5. It says, write an integer that represents the total change in score by the 3 cards, which would be -15 because it's decreasing our score. It says, write an equation that relates the product and how it affects your score. Well, 3 times, 3 times -15. Sorry. I did that in class. 3 times -5 would then equal -15. So now, the next thing that we're going to look at is, well, what happens if we have a positive card? So we have -1, 5, 3, and 4. Well, if I bring those cards down, and I continue with the star card, and I add 4 more of them, it says, write a product that describes the 5 matching cards. Well, 5 times 4. It says, write an expression that represents how each of the cards changes your score. Well, if I add 4 of those 5 of those, it's going to increase my score by 5 of the 4s. It says, write an equation that relates these 2 expressions. Well, again, it's repeated addition, so 5 times 4 is going to be the same as adding 5 4s. So it says, write an integer that represents the total change to your score by the 5 cards. Well, that's going to be 20. And it says, write an equation that relates the product and how it affects your score. Well, 5 times 4, and that equals 20. Then it says, use the expression 5 times 4 to relate the multiplication of the positive valued cards to addition. Well, how that affects it is 5 times 4 equals 5, equals 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals 20. This is use the expression 3 times negative 5 to relate the multiplication of a negative valued card to addition. Well, 3 times negative 5 equals negative 5 plus negative 5 plus negative 5 equals negative 15. Now these cards here belong to the next question on the next page. So I'm going to use these right here. So I'm just going to simply use these so that we can kind of look at them and see how they work. It says if all of the 4s from the playing hand on the right are discarded, and actually they're up here, so I'm going to put an arrow right here, okay? How will the score be effective? Model using the product in the equation. Well, we have to be careful here because what's happening is if we discard them, we are going to subtract them. Okay, we're not adding them, we are subtracting them. So in order for that to happen, the score decreases by 4 3 times. So for that to happen, we are going to subtract 4 3 times. So we are actually going to decrease that score by 12. So that would be a negative number. So it says what 3 matching cards could be added to those pictured to get the same change in score. Well, to get that same change in score, we could add 3 negative 4s. In other words, we could add negative 4 plus negative 4 plus negative 4, and that would give us negative 12. And so in other words, 3 times that negative 4 would equal negative 12. So it said, seeing how each play affects the score, relate the products that you used to model them. What do you conclude about multiplying integers with opposite signs? Well, seeing that how this is, and our other example, we can conclude that the answer is negative. If the matching cards from the playing hand on the right are discarded, how will this hand's score be affected? Model this using a product in an equation. Okay, well, removing a negative 2 would make the score increase. By 2. So, removing all 4 would make it increase by 8. In other words, if we removed the 2s and we removed all 4, it would increase by 8. So it says what 4 matching cards could be added to those pictures to get the same change in the score. Well, 4 matching 2s would be added to the cards. In other words, 4 times 2 would equal 8. In other words, we could put 2's on top of here, and it would make them zeros, and it would actually cross these out. So now it says, seeing how each play affects the score, relate the products that you use to model them. What do you conclude about multiplying integers with the same sign? Well, the answer would be positive. Let me spell that properly. Okay. So using the conclusions from examples 2 and 3, what could you conclude about multiplying integers? Well, what we can conclude then would be integers with the same signs are answers is positive. Opposite signs, when we multiply them, our answer is negative. And that concludes our lesson.